Alright, there we go. I thought I did go live on YouTube, but I didn't. The thing bugged. Alright, here we go. Okay. But, yeah, welcome everybody. Welcome. This is the grand final. Ashes of Asuryan. We've got two players here. We've got Hannodins and we've got Raced in the grand final here. This is the best of 7. Is the heat getting to me? Yes, it is. If you guys don't know, there's a heat wave in England currently. And the heat wave is brutal. But yeah, welcome in everybody. Like I said, this is the Ashes of Asuryan, number 5 grand final. Raced versus Hannodins. We've got a very interesting composition of a 5 devoted of Slaanesh in the front line alongside the likes of the exalted Demonettes of Slaanesh, 3 Fiends, 3 Furies, Exalted Keeper of Slaanesh on this side. But the thing is, the Dark Elves have something very... Trials of Asuryan. We got some very terrifying prospects with the Blood Rack Shrine alongside the High Beastmaster. So they've got some incredible single entity killing. So we'll have to wait and see where that gets played out. Obviously, there's a lot of situations where the Furies, especially due to how armor-piercing they are, can try and look for isolations of these targets. So we want to make sure that the Dark Elf player is not putting themselves in situations where they are isolating specific high-priority targets, like the High Beastmaster, like the Blood Rack Shrine. Going for some skirmishing already. You can see the Shrine does a pretty sizable chunk of damage going through the Moors of Slaanesh here. But one of the things we're going to have to wait and see is how the Slaanesh player reacts and how they can actually wrap around the Dark Elves. Because the Dark Elf has a significantly heavy melee-based roster here. So we'll have to wait and see if they react accordingly to the one, because, you know, the Beastmaster especially can just start cycle charging through a lot of this inventory because they don't have a lot of staying power. But one of the main things you've got to make sure to do as the Slaanesh player is lock them down with the Fiends and ensure that he can actually get away with cycle charging. Fiends will do a fantastic job, but the great ideal of getting the Cold War Knights to protect the Fiends, because you can't be having units like that, basically isolating it. You've got the Furies coming through now, and some pretty heavy trading coming through. Some spells being thrown out left and right from the Slaanesh side, just probably potentially to weaken the Dark Elf frontline here. As, wow, the High Elf Beastmaster, this is what I was saying. If you allow the Beastmaster to get locked up into melee there, you know, bad news bears, especially because of the fact that, like we said, very, very squishy stat line. 24 melee defense will absolutely get melted, especially with the minus defenses that you can apply from, I believe, the Fiends and other units like that. So you've got to be very, very careful here. Furies are being wrapped around. Fantastic push through with the Exalted Keeper of Slaanesh coming through onto the Lord here. And absolutely isolating it. This is what I was saying at the very beginning of the fight. You have to be very careful with regarding the isolations of what's happening, because this is what Slaanesh do exceptionally well. Looking for those kinds of isolations, you are going to be very, very susceptible to being killed. And it looks like they did a fantastic job playing towards the victory conditions, ensuring that they looked towards what was strong, what was weak within the composition, and taking full advantage of that one. I think Slaanesh definitely went with a composition that worked fantastically against the Dark Elves, especially because of the fact that they accounted for the fact that there may be a lot of ranged on the Dark Elf side. Typically speaking, you see like quite a Medusa-esque start, but we went with the Shrine here, printing up a wee bit of value in here, especially getting the Order of Ador, giving a ton of melee attack and leadership around the area. But it's a bit too little too late. The Beastmaster's responsibilities and job within this specific fight here is cycle charging through all sorts of the inventory that the Slaanesh roster brought forward, and ensuring that they can pop shots into the likes of the large entities like the Exalted Keeper of Secrets with the 800 missile strength. But we can see the mage can potentially keep printing off spell value. We don't have any kind of summons. It is just flock spams, it makes sense, especially because Slaanesh oftentimes wants to put themselves in situations where they're blobbing up. As you can see, the majority of their inventory are exceptionally blobbed up here. Witch Elves have routed out and coming back into the battle. Honestly, this is one of the things where Terror really comes in handy, especially against factions that do not have immune to psychology like the Dark Elves here. I believe when the Murderous Mastery comes in, it gives them the Cause Fear, which makes them immune towards fear, so it reduces the threshold of terror coming through. But really fantastic job of isolation on the Slaanesh's side. This is exactly what you'd expect from a Slaanesh player, looking for those isolations and looking to ensure that this is something that they can make sure to, isolate anything and do a fantastic job of doing so. Right, that was a fantastic, really, really, really explosive first battle there. Let me just make sure that I get the thing on top. I will be adding on the top of my screen what the current list is between these lads. So let me go ahead and grab a text. Maybe I can just do it in one. Oops, I added the wrong one. Just so you guys can see what the ongoing list is between these guys. So let me just quickly add this one in. Text, it is ODM. I'll change the way it looks in a second. I know it'll be too big for a second. So let me just put this is on 1 now. And let's go ahead and minimize this bad boy. We'll go ahead and put that bad boy there. I can actually change the text, which is good. Let me go ahead and change the text as well, as I think I want to make sure it's readable. Tell them to play Yuan Bo. I can't tell them what to play. I think that one will be a little bit more readable, so we'll do that one. And then let's go ahead and copy and paste. And we can move the secondary one over here. And that would be the wonderful Raced. Probably potentially butchering that. One thing I've been learning recently is the way that, as an Englishman, we pronounce things very literally. And oftentimes that isn't... Oh, shoot. Oh, because it's the same thing. That's why it's copying the text. Let's say. Professional streamer here, by the way. Just add a new one. La 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 la. So while these guys are getting their lobby together, while they're doing what they need to do, I will make sure this all juicy stuff is set up correctly. Beautiful. Yeah, that'll do for now. Obviously, this is one of the very first tournaments I've done regarding putting scores and stuff on the top, so hopefully that's obviously readable. Let me guys know if there's anything different. How can we see you never play with Nikari or Azazel? You'll see people with Azazel a fair amount. One of the problems you'll often find is the cost is quite expensive for lords like that, right? Nikari is an assassin, but typically speaking, you won't find opportunities to utilize the fact that you can go to those assassinations very much. So you've got to be careful with how much you cost and how much you're spending, especially in land battle. Every penny counts, right? That's one of the things you got to remember. Every single pennies counts. And so you got to maximize the value you can obtain. So if Nikari isn't able to facilitate all the niches that you're looking for, you can utilize things like the exalted the exalted variant of Slanesh, instead of going with the entirety of Nikari. Because just baseline, he costs a lot, even without spells. So you can minimize what you're spending to maximize the output of what your army can achieve. As it was a great idea bringing someone that was a little bit cheap and cheerful to ensure that you could isolate the Dark Elf specific lords there. And yeah, really, really great isolations of units. Because the thing that you'll learn the more you play, like any amount of money you're spending, it really matters. You have to be very, 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 I guess, what's the word? Aware with how much you're spending. Because normally, cheap and cheerful is the way to do it. Going very wide with a composition in land battle usually does well. And that's one of the reasons why Kislev is very dominant. Because for a very cheap cost, you can go very, very wide. But it looks like we have... we've got Wood Elves on Race's side. And Skaven on Hannodins' side. So this is going to be an interesting composition, especially because of the fact that Skaven have the sneaky stabbing ability. Wood Elves obviously have a wide variety of compositions you can go for. Obviously, you can go very heavily into the ranged, but you can also go heavily into cavalry, which is something that Skaven player may not anticipate, especially with a bum rush of a ton of cavalry. It can get very scary for the weapons teams of Skaven, but you can go relatively large and relatively wide, but we're on the Blue Reach River map here. Hey, Mango, good to see you, buddy. Hope you're doing well. So yeah, this is a classic. So a couple of cavalry units, so 4 cavalry units here, legitimately 0 ranged units, which makes a lot of sense, especially with the dogs that you could expect. 2 Packmasters and a Ruin Mage. We got the El Clasico Regiment of Renown, because I believe they are hidden with Snipe. So it's Stalk and Snipe, right? Or Unspottable, something like that. I can't remember the exact terminology, but it allows them to basically shoot from stealth, which becomes very, very frustrating to deal with. And especially on a map like this, with it being as wide as it is, it helps significantly. But the Ruin dude on a clock, love to see that, especially because of the fact that you gain infinite leadership for everybody. So a great idea when it comes to utilizing this one. When you're in a position where your units are routing, which obviously going with a lot of Skaven slaves, you're expecting them to have leadership penalties. And for the low price of one button, you can effectively give them about 50% leadership, which is an exceptionally powerful spell. You know, alongside with the Wolf Rats too, we've got a very, very susceptible army to routing. And so bringing that, forward is a great way of doing it. And it's snipe and stalk, yeah. So it's the Natty Bubo's Sharpshooter Warlock Jezzails. Very interesting to see how that actually plays out. 275 range. You know, we know that there's a lot of melee potential on the side of the Wood Elves. So we have to be careful, but it looks like the Wood Elf player is going for a pretty damn aggressive positioning here. Dryads can obviously be in Vanguard deployment. Everything can actually be in Vanguard deployment here. So that's really interesting to see the differences and the adaptation that this player is actually going for. And the Skaven, ooh, okay, getting a bit spicy and a bit juicy. So you can see Packmasters across the board are actually such a very difficult unit to deal with because you can shot collar each other. So one of the reasons why double Packmaster actually has a lot of synergy is because of the fact that you can give them the shot collar healing alongside melee attack, because they'll become a very formidable foe. Hidden, not revealed by firing on a proximity. Yeah, you gotta get close enough to see them, right? With Terror as well and Frenzy, as soon as the battle starts, you'll see that the melee attack and just in general the damage will start scaling up. But yeah, as we saw on the Wood Elf side, we've got the likes of... Ooh, okay, so this is basically a Spirit Leech alongside making a ton of Vigor increases. So any of the Lords will be... Or any Lords of Heroes, excuse me, will get themselves in a situation very quickly where they'll become exhausted. We've got the Manticore summons there. Yeah, great idea, especially because you want some Terror in there. Ancient Protector, so we're negating magical attacks across the board as well. But then Coadil is a very, very, very powerful fighter. The only concern is obviously 9.8k HP. And it looks like since we've gone with the Glaive Lord, I don't believe I saw a mage. So we may be in a situation where we have very limited healing, especially to keep a 10,000 big old tree alive. Great Stag Knights, tons of Dryads. Lovely. I mean, yeah, it's going to be very interesting to see how this plays out, because typically speaking, the Rat Ogres should be able to, in theory, protect all the Skaven Slave Slingers, but it's going to be a classic case of there's very little actual hard hitters from an inventory perspective apart from the Warlock Jezzails, so we'll have to wait and see how the Skaven player plays this out, because, you know, we've got a lot of damage on the Wood Elf side, and we can see already. We've got the Glaive Rider Spears. If you press tab, you can instantly see what the map is. So when you're playing in these land battle situations, you always want to press tab and have a look what's actually going on, because it does give you the information rapidly that you're being flanked. One of the things you always want to make sure not to do is over-rotate as well. So in this situation, what the Skaven player should be looking for is not to panic too much. Just set themselves in a situation up where they can have the information that they need to react accordingly. Because you can see here, if you start over-rotating, all of a sudden you'll start having cracks in your armor, and your Warlock Jezzails will be in a very, very difficult position to actually do much. This is a great usage of this unit, just trying to play and keep attentive to it. But this is a really scary situation now, because the Packmaster, most likely alongside with the Wolf Rats, can absolutely chew these Glaive Riders to pieces, because they only have 15 armor. So now you can see as well, we're trying to position ourselves. Let's go, do you know what, tab view. You can see very quickly that we're getting all the way surrounding. And this is a bit of a nightmare for the Skaven player, especially since you may expect a couple pop shots could be going off over here due to the way that the range is. You'd assume that the range is actually sufficient, but at the same time, you don't want to show your hand. You don't want to show your hand too soon. So the second that this Warlock Jezzail starts firing, the person on the Wood Elf side would actually start to realize, hang on a second, guys, they actually have the Warlock Jezzail, so let's change up how we approach the situation. Let's try and think about it in a more methodical position. So great stags. So a lot of the cavalry and the Dryads are coming through now. The thing that I worry about, outside of the Wolf Rats and outside of the Warlock Jezzails, how are they going to actually start to deal with some of the really, really beefy Dryads? Because Dryads can absolutely munch through the majority of the Skaven frontline here. There's very few things. I mean, I guess it's going to be up to the Rat Ogre to try and help support them, but they don't have anti-infantry. It'd just be a fairly prolonged fight. Warlock Jezzail's going straight for Coadil. This is what we were saying. You know, without supportive healing, there's a chance that we're going to take a considerable amount of damage. And this is where it gets a little bit scary for the Skaven player, because like we said, you know, as a lot of the infantry starting to move forward, how can we continuously keep ensuring that we're protecting the backline units that are actually doing a significant portion of damage here? So you can see that the Dryads are now starting to move in. One of the things you often got to remember is, oh yeah, yes, the Skaven player has 900 gold value, and it is rapidly stacking up. But at the same time, you don't want to concern yourself with that too much, especially because in this composition of the Skavens, you're expecting them to gain a lot of value in the early stages of the game, and it's up to how the Wood Elf player starts to react and pushes into the backline units here. As you can see, we're starting to go with a bit of a flank charge here, a little bit disjointed, but for now, obviously, the Wild Hunters should absolutely smoke these Rat Ogres, especially because they have very little armor. Tons of stacked up units on this side. We're going to have to wait and see what happens over here. A lot of the units on the Dryad side have been absolutely smoked. So isolation is obviously one of the things that have been key here. A ton of isolation has happened on both sides. On the right-hand side, obviously, the Wood Elf player is taking a massive advantage of taking down these Rat Ogres. But on the left-hand side, the infantry is being completely left alone. And this may be costly for the Wood Elf player, because without the infantry, you may start struggling to deal with the things like the Warlock Jezzails. But one of those things in battles like this, consolidation to your forces, ensuring you're attacking on one side, taking the advantages and pressuring it as much as you can, sometimes has a very, very, very good way of getting you positional advantage. But there's a lot of units specifically still left in the battle, and we'll have to wait and see. You know, what I'd like to see, it's one of those things where it's all well and good taking this hero out right now, but the fact that you're getting completely slapped by the backline here does make me a little bit worried. But I guess if you're looking for isolations, you're looking for very quick successions of this, you want to make sure you're putting your units into good use here. Wow, that's shattered. So let's get everything around, start looking for the backline. A little bit of a stacked up army here. So let's see how the Skaven player can react accordingly to what's actually going to go on here. As you'd expect, a lot of units in the backline here have actually been routed. They're going to start pulling in and being engaged again, so we need a Glade Rider Spears coming back to support against the backline here. Seems that the Slingers were obviously stacked on top of the Warlock Jezzails just to give them a bit more protection, a little bit more meat around the bones. But you can see very quickly, Coadil and the likes of the squad around here can definitely kill that Grey Seer very, very quickly. Let's just make sure... Yeah, the the Warp Lightning is obviously going to do a lot of damage, and you can see the Wood Elves are starting to wrestle it back a little bit. Like we said, you know, in the very beginning of the positioning, you're expecting to lose a little bit of value, especially against units that have a lot of range damage. But here is where it gets a little bit scary. Here's where Coadil gets a little bit isolated, and the Packmaster, alongside the Grey Seer of Rune, can start doing things. Even putting down Warp Lightning can still do a lot of damage. And you can see that we need to start looking for positions where we can take down the backline units, but we've done a fantastic job, especially with the Glade Lord becoming in the area, or sticking and being very, you know, a very large nuisance here. But fantastic opportunity with the Great Stag Knights there, looking for the weakness or the kinks in the armor there, taking out the Warlock, wow, I'm tongue-twisted, Warplock Jezzails. But yeah, the thing that worries me the most is we're starting to lose a significant portion of inventory here. There is very few units left, although yes, the gold value is still within, you know, the likes of the Wood Elves. What do the Wood Elves really have left, apart from a couple Lords and a few cavalry units here? So we'll have to wait and see how they recover for the situation, especially because the majority of the infantry on the Skaven side as well. Okay, disgusting summon from the Stormbowman here. Yeah, this spell does a ton of damage on the actual cast, and it's doing some significant portion of damage. So yeah, the AoE Murder of Spites coming from Coadil as well. Bit of a Mortis Engine situation, so let's have a look. But yeah, I think Coadil is going to struggle, especially against the Stormbowman. You know, what's the bonuses large? They've got 17, so yeah, Coadil doesn't have a lot of melee defense, so very quickly he's going to start falling to that. But smart play. Smart usage. I mean, I really do like the usage of the Unholy Clamour. You know, it is such a good backup when you have so many chaff units. One of the things you always got to look for is moving as a squad and making sure you're fighting as one. There was a little bit of a disjointed initial charge with cavalry to begin with. That may have made it a little bit harder for the Wood Elf side, but overall, you know, looking for those isolations and looking for the plays and looking for situations that give them advantages. I think both players did a fantastic job of this one, but in the end, the Skaven has taken the win there. Yeah, well done, GG's. Great games. I do love the bell tolling with every spell. Yeah, me too, man. So, that is the wonderful Hannodins on 2. Posh. Absolute banger of a fight. Both of them looking for isolation there. I'd love to see that. Okay, so it looks like we've got a high elf ban, and I believe Wood Elves as well. And Race himself is playing high elves, it looks like. So we'll have to wait and see. Hey, Merds, how we doing, handsome? Doggo's doing wonderful. She's on the bed right now. Shall I show you guys? Alright, shall I show you guys quickly while we're waiting for these players to do this? Oh, you guys get to see my room as well. Let's not disturb her. The little pupper having a sleep on the bed. The reason why she loves the attic now is because I've got an AC and there's a fan on right now. So in the heat wave, she's absolutely loving life. You've got sun idle? Yeah, it's really sun. It's really, really sunny here. We're in a heat wave currently. Have you been having a rough time and made my day? Much love to you, Mango. There's one for Guardian Line. It is. And Financers. It's an FO submod. Okay, understood. Thank you, Olaf, for helping out. Chilled right out, yeah. So right before this, it's the reason why I was a little bit late. I was out with my dog, so I had to rush home and get everything set up. As yeah, I stupidly misread the time and thought it was going to be 4 PM my time, not 3 PM. Ooh, High Elf versus Greenskins. This is a oh man, if Hannodins plays Grom, that'd be so peak. If we do get to see the Grom matchup here. I mean, it's a decent DLC. It's a decent DLC. Obviously, I'm not going to click on the players or anything like that, so I don't spoil what armies and what they're using. Wow, Greenskins is such an interesting one. I am a big fan of Greenskins in general. I think they're an awesome faction. Especially with the new DLC. I'm really going to be interested to see how that changes the meta a little bit, because oftentimes, you know, Greenskins are very, very terrifying if you build them really weirdly. I think Greenskins are the only faction in the game that can go fully cavalry and have a lot of units, because they've got a lot of cheap and cheerful. Because when I was against Anticity, I went an entire cavalry army as Greenskins and just smoked right over him. Just absolutely smoked him, because he was Wood Elves, so it was an unfortunate situation for himself. But it was quite funny. You smoking to him, boys, yeah. Surely we'll see Grom versus Altharian? Yeah, surely, guys. No way we won't, right? The thing that makes me sad about Grom is he has a chariot melee attack. So no matter how much weapon strength you amplify on Grom, he will still attack 300 with his chariot, as it's coded within his attack animations, or coded within his attacks. I think it's every 3 or so he'll just attack with a chariot, instead of attacking with his weapon strength. Which is the only thing that's kind of annoying about Grom. Unless they've changed it. But, yeah. Anytime you actively reduce the damage you deal, obviously is not a good thing, right? Yeah, it's very cute. Freya does love to take the Z's. And like I said, it's nicely AC'd up here. Right, we've got High Elves is raring to go. Yeah, we already know it's going to be Altharian, surely, boys. Wait. Hannodins is playing High Elves? No, he's playing Greenskins. He must have misclicked. Yeah, High Elf versus High Elf matchup would be interesting. It'd just be like everyone's shooting each other from afar. It'd be interesting to see how that would be. What the kind of dynamic there. But from speed of range, yeah. I mean, you can get... Honestly, it's one of those things where every single faction can kind of bring some pretty spicy things in. So it's going to be interesting to see what kind of dynamic they bring to the table here. Because High Elves can do some very, very crazy things. Like bringing a lot of dragons, bringing a lot of units that potentially may be very difficult for the Greenskins to deal with. So we'll have to wait and see if they are comfortable with doing so. And I definitely think with the first game, with the changes, I'm not sure if the mod has changed any of the Slaanesh changes to get Strider on all the units, but definitely felt like the buff to Slaanesh that came through in 5.1 gave them a little bit of a helping hand there. I think chariots are now good enough for certain factions. In multiplayer specifically, chariots have always been good. It just depends on how you use them. I think it's one of those spicy things, right? If you put a chariot in a really, really, really good player's hands, they will do a lot of work with it, right? Because they understand that it's not to use straight away. If you're using your chariots and charging in literally instantaneously, you are doing things wrong. You are not playing to what you should be using your chariot for. They are a mop-up unit. They can mop things up very, very nicely. And if your opponent has very limited resources, they will gain infinite value. Oftentimes you see people trying to utilize chariots as a way to batter the front lines that the opposition has at the very beginning of the fight. But oftentimes that's not towards the victory conditions of what actually makes you powerful there. Because you have to remember that in that situation where you're trying to pick off a couple of units here and there, actively you are reducing your potential in the later stages of the game. Similar thing to using magic. You know, there may be situations where your opposition has no counters, so you have to be very careful with how you use some of the resources you have available to you. E.g., if you just continuously keep firing your ranged units, and then in the latter stages of the game, you now have a situation where you have very limited ranged against single entities, you'll struggle to kill them, right? So equally, we can see on the left-hand side, we've got a very interesting composition being built from the Greenskins perspective. So we'll have to wait and see how that actually pans out, because this map is definitely a relatively flat land, but it kind of limits the amount of flanking and kind of spicy things you can do, because I don't believe you can walk in this terrain. Although it'd be pretty cool. It seems very kind of Greenskin-esque to use this as like a mock Gorah or something like in WoW. But I'll have to wait and see how that plays out. We've got the Night Goblin War Boss. I know they've recently got a little bit of a nerf on the bonuses inventory. But a interesting composition kind of being played out. So we've got triple Orc Boys on this flank here. We've got Orc Boy Biggins, triple Orc Boy Biggins. Excuse me, quadruple Orc Boy Biggins. So, oh, you can walk in there. Interesting. Oh, yeah, you can see. Very cool, then. Then it's a completely wide map, which then would probably favor the Greenskins here. Definitely look into the composition of the Greenskins. They have a lot of options and answers to the inventory that the High Elves have brought forward. You know, the armored archers, it really doesn't matter that they're super armored. 80 armor is actually quite a lot, though. It doesn't matter how armored they are, though. They'll still most likely struggle pretty significantly because the majority of the damage coming through on the cavalry is obviously armor piercing. We'll have to wait and see. But like a football pitch, it is. I mean, the Greenskins are based off football hooligans as well. 80 armor, yes, this is the mod. Ooh, do you know what I should be doing? One sec, guys. Right, let me just quickly, so I can, just for your guys' sake as well, I am going to pin the mod that's being used. Just so you guys have it as well. Gosh. Just so you guys can see the differences. This is Ashes is the wonderful mod that is being utilized, and it's going to enable us to basically do this. It's the Trials of Asuryan, and the mod changes things. Assuming they'll see the fancy armor. Oh, yes they do. Hello. And they... Wow, do they always have the... Yeah, that is very cool. Gives me Lord of the Rings vibes. This works in campaign? I actually wonder. Loopy, does this work in campaign if you try to use it? Because it does it change the... I'm assuming it just changes the unit, so you could probably get them It works in campaign. Oh, nice, yeah. I know this is... I know the mod specifically balances some of the... changes the balance of power, right? Right, look at these lads. Ooh, a couple flanking situations, potentially trying to look for the backline units there, so we'll have to wait and see how that pans out for them. Let's take some water. Right. Ooh, that is a little unfortunate for the High Elf player there. Have to wait and see how that pans out. But good luck to both of these guys. We've got the Greenskins versus the High Elves. Like we said, we've got quite a few Lyran Reavers. We've got some White Lions. We've got quite... I think it's a triple Lion... triple Archer situation. The White Lions, a double scenario there. A couple of the Spearmen. So 4 Spearmen in the front and the Frostheart Phoenix. So instantaneously, the cavalry was spotted, but they have to absolutely beeline away from that one. The Illyrian Reavers will be significantly faster than the Orc Boys, so they don't have to worry too much about that one. The Fire Mage could probably look for some tasty magic spells of Burning Head, especially things like the Fanatics here. If you can get rid of and lower their threshold of health below 25%, you know, a really good time there. Multiplier passive is different. 10% speed it is indeed. That is quite a lot. Yeah, because when it was 75%, it was so much weaker. I think it gave Spearmen like an extra minute or 2 in combat due to the changes of it. Oh, the Fire Mage has gone straight in there and instantly rampaged due to the Night War Boss. That's a terrifying prospect for the Archmage, so you got to be very careful with your mage here. I would even put a Burning Head in there, put whatever you can in there, just try and give some protection, but we're going to see that the Blizzard Aura is going to come through. The Phoenix is coming out. Yep, Fire Mage is coming through now as well. You just have to try and get your mage out of here because it's a very, very, difficult situation, but she's buying so much space. So if she can get out of this situation, even though she's only, 30 armor, if she can find a way out of this situation, utilize the mass, it's a meager 1.3k mass, but if she can find a way out of this one, she's buying so much space for her archers to absolutely roast this. But by utilizing these, very, very costly single entities, you're going to be in a bit of a scary situation. Ravens have been spotted and have been caught out, but you can see that there's obviously a pretty large, significant investment going into the cavalry on this side. So let's see where the high elf player can take the advantage of the situation. You obviously have to be very careful because of the fact that your rock clobbers are crushing your elite infantry in the back, but having these anti-large boys would be so nice. But really nice wraparound coming in from the likes of Hannodins, going for the backline units here and absolutely smoking them. Really smart play there. Great usage of their cavalry to ensure that they're flanking around. And the Fanatics are absolutely, do you know what, not too bad. So that was a double Fanatic scenario. Didn't seem that they got crazy amounts of value, especially because these Spearmen reacted accordingly. We can see the Phoenix is absolutely smoking the giant River Troll Hag, and that is, doesn't even have fire attacks because it's the Frostheart variant of it. So you'd have expected like the fire variant to do a lot more damage against the likes of River Troll Hags because of the regeneration. So you'd take 20% more damage, but still, the giant River Troll Hag is struggling massively against the Phoenix, and the Phoenix just doesn't miss. Especially because of the fact that there's only 20 melee defense, so especially with the Blizzard Aura coming through, just reducing the defense there. A lot of the Greenskin infantry is starting to ramp back into battle. We can see the balance of power is still 50-50, and as long as the Archmage doesn't go into combat again, we've got to be very careful because of all the rampages. So you've got to be really, really scared with your Archmage here, especially because of the fact that you don't want to lose your mage early on in a battle like this one because you're missing so much potential damage and so much potential bonuses and buffs that you're going to provide here. So it looks like that is really nice. So the cavalry has routed away. These guys are doing so much work. I love to see that. So we'll see how many abilities they have left. So we've got one more fermented fungi. So we're going to have to remember in the back of our minds when that cooldown comes back on, we're likely to expect it to hit on the Archmage to try and kill him because that bonus, the reductions of health and leadership across the board there is going to be huge. Thankfully we've got the Rock Lobbers taken down. The cavalry in question have been dealt with here. If we go on the old pop-up view, we can see that the Orc Boy Biggins are chasing off the Illyrian Reavers, but only 6 of them. I wouldn't care about that. Bring them right back into the fight because you're losing lines. You're losing the positioning that you have on some of your backline units. Spearmen have 40 armor. The Night Goblin Fanatics have been burnt with the Burning Head. They're running off the battlefield scared now. We can see that the Night Goblin boss is starting to beat up some of the archers here. These White Lions of Thrace are doing such a good job of keeping the cavalry in check here. We can see it's getting a little bit of a scrappy fight. We've got a lot of infantry still left for the High Elves here. We've got the White Lions on the hillside waiting to pounce on anything that's unsuspecting here. The cavalry are unfortunately going back and just ignoring the battles that they just know they can't win. And so the archers are just legging it from the goblins. Wheels gobos, they say, as the archers are still running as fast as they can towards the hills here. 35 speed versus the 33 speed. And one of the things you have to remember, when you are charging, it amplifies your speed pretty significantly, and that's probably one of the reasons why they caught up, because as part of climbing up a hill, you have a significantly reduced speed, and so that amplification of speed as part of charging is one of the ways that you can catch up there. Normal goblins being chewed down by the white lions and the spearmen. You can see the anti-infantry coming in clutch there. We can see the archmage is still active within the battle, which is nice to see. But we've got, obviously, the cavalry in the trees here, looking to make themselves active in the ongoing battle here. You know, the white lions are now struggling a wee bit because of the fact that they've just had to do a lot of protection of their backline units here. You know, the archers at the very beginning of the fight did a lot of damage into the cavalry, which is exactly what you're looking for. Let's have a look if the fermented fungi is still alive and still raring to go within the pocket of this Night Goblin War Boss, and it actually is. So we'll have to wait and see if the Archmage gets into a susceptible position for them to be taken down. But the thing that I'm worried about now is what's within the Greenskins roster. Will it be able to even finish them off? Because this is where I was talking about, like, the resources and the specific things you have inside of the battles in question. When you have units that are, let's say, you know, exceptionally potent and powerful within certain scenarios, you know, like the Phoenix, if you can keep them alive and keep them active within the battlefield, you'll have very huge aegis within the overall, you know, domination of the fight, because you can basically stop people from doing things very quickly once you know how you can pressure them and where you can put pinpoints on it. And especially since the way that the rampage was changed, the tokens are effectively applied instantly with units and spells like this. So you can see here that you know, the Phoenix is going to be very scared in general here. But we've got the likes of the big boys.
Shen murder.
Hey, Joachim, thanks for 2 years, but I appreciate you. Let's wait and see what happens here, because obviously the Fanatics here are unbreakable. There's a couple of greenskin units here. There's quite a fair few units that can do, you know, pack a punch here. You know, there's quite a fair few things that can pack a punch here. So we can see that the cavalries have now come back into the battlefield on that side. We've got the spearmen chasing off these guys off the fight, and is that cavalry? Is that an infantry? Is that cavalry? Sorry, no, that's the Fanatics. Okay, nice usage of chasing them off the fight. But now, what the pressure and what the situation is? The greenskin player has no magic. The high elf player has a reasonable chunk of magic available to them. So if at any point the greenskin player commits to a fight here, you know, expect to take a lot of damage. You know, the fermented fungi, I would throw this down on the Phoenix ASAP here and try and look for a surround. This is one of the things that you can do to try and get back into the game. If this is not a visual bug, yep, there you go. Like we mentioned, the fungi's come through. Get this around, get them cycle charging. This is one of the mistakes that you have to pounce on instantaneously. Because if you can get this Phoenix down, we understand that obviously the revival is potentially a thing. I know with most Phoenixes you can, but maybe in this mod that they're taking that away. Great usage of Burning Head to try and get a threshold of terror in there, especially because, as we know, Phoenixes have terror here. I mean, the idea, it was absolutely sound. What you were expecting there, it was, you know, trying to isolate units, but like we mentioned, you know, potentially a little bit too late. Trying to go for the Hail Mary on the mage, and it didn't quite pan out, was obviously a bit of a detriment, but the mage still survives, and Raced takes it. GG's, man. Oh, shoot, I didn't save it in time. As it ended before I got a chance. Let me just... I'm pretty sure Loopy, you'll want it, right? Let me just make sure I grab that. But yeah, really nice fight there. Let me make sure to put... to change the text, and our boy Brace has taken one down with the High Elves. Great play there. Maybe doing the Tyrion quest battle in a minute on this map? Yeah, that is... Yeah, that was the Warhammer 2, Bobby, wasn't it? I did a speed run of the Tyrion quest battle. Good times. The speed run of the Tyrion quest battle. Right. Yeah, I was #1 in the world. Yeah, #1 in the world. Let's go, boys. Oh yeah, that was what I was doing. Save, replays. Auto save, replay. Let's grab that boy. And then chuck it over here. Oh, you can just rename the autosave. Yeah, that's a good idea. Yeah, good chat, thank you. Pause check now you want to. A Gobby Gobbo? Yeah, Gobby Gobbo as always. Yeah, Race mentioned that they forgot about the Greenskins rampage. Such a classic. Oh, we're looking like do not shame your ancestors, dummy brethren. Let's see if we get the dowie. You know, your boy loves his dowie. I wonder if they're going to be having to dig really deep in the champ pool here. Oh, champ pool? I'm talking like a league commentator. Dig deep in the faction list. So Demons of Chaos have been banned. I believe Empire and Kislev have also been banned. So we'll have to wait and see what race from that list pulls out. As you got to remember that these guys, I believe, have 3 bans. And every single map is pre-configured. So there's 7 maps that these guys will be playing. Yeah, there's a couple balance changes all left on the mod. Let's see what race is thinking about playing here. Wait, I wonder if Hannodins is actually playing Demons of Chaos because he's banned it himself. Oh, I think I understand it now. Demons of Chaos, the first one is what they pick, and then they ban Empire and Kislev. So seemingly it is a demon versus demon. Who is the leader here? Demons of Chaos versus the Warriors of Chaos. Demons of Chaos, I know recently were only able to be were only recently enabled within the likes of ranked queues. But yeah, best of 7's all if you're not wrong. I mean, these guys have to dig deep into the kind of factions that they play. If you put me into a best of 7 situation, I'd be terrible. I'd be playing factions that probably would be garbage just for the sake of it's the only thing that I know of. You know, I keep saying champ pool. My faction pool is very limited right now, which is the reason why I'm trying to educate myself and learn more. Demons of Chaos obviously have a lot of differences that they can go for. Same with Warriors of Chaos. You know, a couple of Warriors of Chaos land battle things you can go with is Helibrass and Sigvald. You know, a very, very terrifying healing prospects where they can just basically be super sticky and sit in battle situations and just never die. Equally, Demons of Chaos have a lot of options around for them. You know, they've got any variant of demon you can think of as per the name. That's pretty self-explanatory. But you can see here that Hannodins is obviously up 2-1 in the series right now. And we're now starting to get into a situation where has Hannodins utilized the things that he's very comfortable with? You know, this is where the mind games comes in. Do you want to start playing your best factions to begin with? And then you may start struggling later down the line? Or do you want to make sure that you start off a little bit slower, use some factions that you might not necessarily be better at? Which is what Race might be doing. Race might have been starting to play some of the factions that aren't as comfortable for them. But as the series will progress, they'll pick up factions that they're a lot more comfortable with. But we'll have to wait and see. These guys are building their armies. They're not taking too long. They've been good with that. But Demons of Chaos, yeah, like we said, have a lot of options. Whereas you guys need to go with Zazel for Rampage and just no Changebringers? No. I guess it depends, right? That's one of the options, Olaf. I would agree having the Rampage for the Changelings. Changebringers are really, really critical because they can provide so much value, especially the amount of damage that they do. Changebringers that came through on Shadows of Change are incredibly powerful. But equally, if you have a lot of Furies, if you have a lot of options and availability for the Demons of Chaos side, do you really need to commit just for that one unit, right? Is Azazel going to be sufficient enough? And hey, Landela, is Azazel going to be sufficient enough to then do and start dueling with everything else? Because it's one of those things where there's more than one, there's more than one thing that you can do to counter a counter your opposition, right? So if we go here and we start sharing our screen, right, you can see for a unit like we'll call them CB, so Changebringers. You've obviously got, like you said, Azazel with, I think it's Paven, right? So like Pavey? I can't remember what it's called. With the spell, I'm just going to call it spell. Azazel can use his spells and isolate the Changebringers, but also, you know, you can bring quite an aerial assault. Like, Changebringers are roughly in the thousands, so maybe 3 Furies can potentially counter it as well. It just depends. It's a constant cycle of it'll all rotate into one another as to what you think is potentially the best approach and what you need to counter it, right? And that's one of the beautiful things about it. I don't know how Warriors of Chaos kills 3 Changebringers when on Azazel. I mean, 3 Changebringers is a significant commitment. I would be very surprised if we saw if we see 3 Changebringers. Wait, Warriors of Chaos has no Furies in multiplayer? Is that true? Then yeah, if that's the case, then absolutely, you would need to at least have an option for it. How good do you think is the Thunder Badge in 5.1? Still strong, Fox. But you won't... I honestly now wouldn't really expect you to use a lot of the Thunder Badges and stuff in multiplayer because it's such a cost. Sort of wrote a post about the Changebringers still unlocking save time with the range attack. Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me. Changebringers are really, really scary. Really scary. I think they just hit so hard. That's the problem with them. They really do hit like a... They massively pack a punch, don't they? And that's one of the things you got to be careful for. But Warriors of Chaos Army is raring to go. I mean, we may see the Azazel angle, or we may see kind of like a... Yeah, but then the more I'm thinking about it, right? If you go with like a Sigvald / Hellebras opener, and your opposition does go a ton of Changebringers, you literally just FF at 15 at that point, you know? But then again, it depends what Hannodins is going to bring. You know, there's so many mind games, it's crazy. So many mind games. One of the things you'll see better players do, though, is cover all bases, though. They'll make their army as strong as possible to cover as many weaknesses as they can. How much League have I played? I played an ARAM last night, or the day before. I haven't been playing much. And does TFT count? I played TFT a couple times today. TFT is so garbage, man. Gacha game, I swear to God. But yeah, Hannodins is still deciding what they want to build here. Sorry guys, I've got a massive headache, so I'm just taking some paracetamol. You can play Team Fortress 2? Aren't they still banning bots in that game, which is so pog? Will I play Elden Ring, by the way, on stream? Probably not. I did it recently, but oh, the players have decided. Yep, went with the classic Azazel. But there are no Changebringers. This is what I mean, right? This is what I was saying. Now Azazel, what does he do? Every single unit into this army, he just sucks against. There's a Bloodthirster, right? So the classic counter that you traditionally would expect has been countered by smart positioning, smart decision-making on the Demons of Chaos side. And this is what I was meaning, guys. This is what I was kind of meaning. This is what I was meaning about the army compositions and what you build is very important. Right. So, Bloodthirster situation. I believe Bloodthirster versus Azazel, I would honestly think the Bloodthirster would take him down. Yeah, I don't think Bloodthirster wins that. I generally don't think Bloodthirster wins that. But the Exalted Keeper of Secrets can do the exact same thing right back to him. So at any point, one of these guys' units can be absolutely smoked, so you got to be careful. We've got to be very, very careful here, so we'll have to wait and see how they specifically portray it and how they play it out. Very wide with blues, which is kind of what you'd expect, especially with some Exalted Flamers. Yeah, really smart uses, honestly, not taking any flying units, especially. Right. Gore Feast. Oh, he's only 0.08% healing. Okay. Spell resistance as well, but that's not really too much of a factor, especially Pavement, I don't think, is single entity damage, yeah. But like we said, you know, Azazel like this is still relatively expensive, but he's now basically being countered by a single Bloodthirster. So Hannodins is building very intelligently here. I mean, typically speaking, every single time you ever expect to see... anytime you expect to see Warriors of Chaos, you normally see Azazel to counter Changebringers, but if you don't bring Changebringers, all of a sudden you free up so much gold for... or so much treasury for the sake of how you're building a composition. Not so safe for the Doom Knights. Oh, shoot, yeah, Doom Knights of anti-large. Okay, yeah, that changes the dynamics of it. Yeah, you gotta be really careful. God, these guys are terrifying. Yeah, they look so pog. Are they basically the, but they're shields as well. Basically the aspiring champions RRR. Hey, shirts out in handsome. I'm doing well. Hope you are. Right, the battle is off. So Cockatrice is obviously going to be really, really good, especially with the Doom Knights of Tzeentch. This bad boy right here can do a really significant pack a punch, but it takes a long time to recover it. Chaos Warhounds are on the flanks here, the Marauder front line, alongside the Mirror Guards, El Clasico representing Slaanesh. Significantly Marauder-based composition coming through. But we'll have to wait and see. The Blue Horrors of Tzeentch coming through. Nurglings with the Blister back. A 0.10 healings. Really nice, especially with the availability of fighting there, especially with 9 melee defense coming through as well. I'm going to be intrigued to see what happens, especially with the front positioning of the Alpine Ridge is going to change the dynamics because there's potentially... These units may be hidden to Demons of Chaos and Hannodins right now, so we'll have to wait and see. I'd expect them to push up a little bit and conform themselves into a position where they can actually reactively play towards what, you know, Race is thinking about doing. But it does feel like whoever tries to go first may be positioned and put in a lot of trouble here. That's kind of the one thing that you got to be really scared of. Whoever commits themselves and puts their composition in a bit of a weak position may be susceptible. Honestly, it's really nice that you can see the barrier next to the health as well. I really like that as a change. 800 barrier is not a lot, though. Especially against the likes of a Bloodthirster. And the Exalted Flamers usually are a single entity killer, but especially if they can connect on multiple of the Doom Knight entities, we may be okay there. We can see the Cockatrice as well as just kind of like slithering around, figuring out where they're best positioned. But we've got to remember that we can't guarantee the Cockatrice won't just be routed and smoked, because like we said, super low armor. And guess what, boys? We've got oh my dyslexia is kicking in. Pavane? One of those. Instantly can rout them, rampage them, excuse me, and put them in a really scary position. So the Exalted Flame is definitely... Wow, it shoots vortexes. Holy! Oh, damn. That's sick. I had no idea this fired vortexes. That's really cool in the mod. I'd be moving up and putting pressure into the Mirror Guards in at that point. That is such a cool spell. Or such a cool attack. And it says it's only good versus 25 combatants. Yeah, it's a good point, Monchief. It's more to make them rampage, right? It's more of the... You want them to rampage, and that's the reason why you use it. That's not a mod. That's the way it does it. Yeah, look. Pavane and Slaanesh coming through to try and rampage the Exalted Flamer of Tzeentch, but it was a little disjointed. And now they can run out and not really be bothered too much about that one. So that's a really long cooldown. It's going to be coming through. And it's quite costly as well. So we can see this is coming through. Honestly, I would instantly start throwing out the Pavane of Slaanesh onto the likes of the Doom Knights. Get everyone active. Let's make sure the Bloodthirst is landed here. But there's a lot of pressure coming out right here, right now, ladies and gentlemen. So let's have a wait and see how this goes on. Hannodins is obviously taking the better approach to this one. There's a lot of fighting in the midst going on. Let's get the Exalted Keeper of Slaanesh coming in there as well, just to try and recover and protect those single entities. The Doom Knights are obviously taking a significant portion of damage, especially since they're Sulfuric Musked and Acquiescence, so that, like, basically zero melee defense. They're taking true damage at that point. The Cockatrice is taking a lot of damage as well, because the Bloodthirster is fantastic at fighting. The Phoenix Slaanesh as well, protecting and fighting alongside the anti-large that they have. The Exalted Flamers of Tzeentch are able to shoot over effectively over the likes of the Blue Fires, which is the really, really smart usage of Blue Horrors there. Because entities like this have the ability to shoot over and do fantastic amounts of damage. Because guess what? Blue Horrors are absolutely short, but let's not say that to any of the dwarves in the chat, or any dwarf players in the chat, excuse me. We can see the Exalted Keeper of Slaanesh trying to get active and try and put themselves in battle situations here. We don't have any kind of melee damage or spell damage that we can do to try and clear off the chaff. Like a Slicing Shards would be fantastic, but then again, Raced, if he saw the Slicing Shards, would play vastly different from the fight. We can see that the Bloodthirsters probably can land again, but the Pavane's coming out to look for those skirmishing. But one of those situations that you can always expect is the this spell coming out for the Nurgles, which is the army battle abilities that you can get. It's randomized if you're playing a Demons of Chaos Lord. Normally, if in campaign, if you play a Slanesh-esque Lord, you would only get Slanesh spells, but here we got the healing, which is really helpful. And you can see that a lot of the fighting going on is unbelievably brutal. It was a very quick succession of fighting there. And you can see the Bloodthirst is still taking a lot of damage, but we want to make sure that to land this guy, land them inside of things like the blues, make it as awkward as possible. There you go, we've landed them. Make it as awkward as possible for them to do this. Let's pull those Sphinx of Slanesh back into the likes of Azazel. Azazel, although is a small entity, he's not a large entity, so you've got to be careful and remind yourselves about that. The Exalted Daemonettes of Slanesh are absolutely mulching all aspiring champions over this side. This is honestly one of the dream scenarios that they have, especially with the amount of damage that they're doing. Pinks on this side are doing a great job. Now the Exalted Flamers are starting to protect on the Demonette side, but you've got to be really careful because of the friendly fire that can come through there. And now this is a classic situation of the wraparound, going with the Acquiescence, going with all the rampaging, going with all the spells, throwing it down on Azazel here. And like we called out at the very beginning, you know, if Changebringers came in, the build that Azazel brought was a great idea, right? So it's one of those things that as a player in multiplayer, you've always got to make sure that you're accommodating for every scenario. If Azazel wasn't brought, then any kind of Changebringers on Hannodin's side would have made it very, very difficult for them to do anything. But fantastic play there. You know, fantastic play there. That was an absolute pleasure to watch. So explosive. Absolutely explosive there. But Race, unfortunately, took the L on that one. But I really like the build. It was a very melee-centric build. Race takes very limited range units for the most part. And, ladies and gentlemen, that will be... Where's the text then? There it is. Hannodins on 3. Great demon usage, yeah. I mean, honestly, Race did everything that he could with the armor composition he had. I mean, I honestly, shout out to all the guys playing in the lobby today, and shout out to the wonderful Loopy for getting this scheduled as well. As, you know, as you guys know, I really want to try and do my best to become a better commentator, make better tournaments and things like that. So having the practice here today has been good fun. I think, fun fact about me, if you guys don't know, I used to play a lot of League. I played basically near enough professional. I was in a semi-pro / professional league back when I was younger. And I always wanted to be a commentator. I always wanted to be a commentator in League. It's what I wanted to do. But then I was like, screw playing multiplayer stuff. I'll play single player. And that's how my Three Kingdoms Warhammer 2 era started, really. So I always played Total War. I played it since I was as a Weean. To play Rome Total War, since we didn't have a PC when I was a kid, I had to go to my auntie's house, which was like a 30-minute walk away. Good times. And all the Skippy homies in the chat as well, much love to you. But I was a Brutii. I loved playing Brutii because I would go to Macedonia and kill them and then play as them. That's what I'd always do. But, so we've got Tomb Kings, it looks like, for Raced, I think. Oh, there's a couple commenting. You added it? Yeah, most of the emotes you asked for, I add them. I think if Race plays Comfort, we may expect them to take this one all the way. Pillar of Bone is the last fight. Oh, man, give us Khorne, boys. For the boys, come on, one of you guys give us Khorne. The Skull Throne is real, especially with how tall the bone pile is here. But yeah, Tomb King's Race is playing, and we'll have to wait and see what Hannodins ends up playing. It'll be funny to see what we can see here. Oh my god, Hannodin's actually doing it! What a legend! I jokingly said it, and he's playing Khorne. What an absolute Chad. I love that. I actually love that. I jokingly said in the Discord, I was like, Hannodins, play, or somebody play Khorne, because it's the Pillar of Bone. That's pretty cool. I like that. What a Chad. So we're expecting... good old him, always got the jokes, absolutely. We're expecting Khorne here now. It is the Pillar of the Bone. Khorne is pleased. Doesn't matter where the blood flows, nor does it matter whose skull is in the collection and piles of bone. So, yeah, we'll have to wait and see what the Khorne build comes out. Wait, is Ray's going to play Khorne as well? Or is he just checking what the army is? Because we're expecting Tomb Kings versus Khorne. Man, what Khorne is going to bring into the Tomb Kings? I mean, if you think about it, right? Tomb Kings have multiple options, as does Khorne. Tomb Kings can go really wide, cheap and cheerful infantry, spearmen, archers, and whatnot there. But if you're doing that against a faction like Khorne, there's a very, very large potential chance that they can bring very, very strong entities like their Skull Taker, their high-tier cavalry, which would be extremely difficult for their archers to punch through. So we'll have to wait and see how they take it. We'll have to wait and see how they approach this one, the ways that they do this one, and what they think specifically is going to be the best option for them. Because, like I mentioned, Tomb Kings have a lot of options, Khorne has a lot of options, and I think with the changes that they did to Furies as well, give them more entities, it makes it a lot easier to start isolating units like archers. Race, from what I'm seeing, prefers more of a melee composition. So we may expect to have, you know, Ushabis. Ushabi Greatbows go really hard here. Scarborough and home field advantage, yeah. Oh man, I'm looking forward to the new Legendary Lord for Khorne. I really am. Didn't they say there was 2 of them or something like that? I think they're really focusing on Khorne, so it may shift up the meta, especially with the multiplayer, because Khorne oftentimes, you don't really see them that much, right? I don't see Khorne much, if I'm going to be honest. I don't see Khorne much. So it's really cool to see that we've got a Khorne battle here. So we'll have to wait and see. We're getting a hero for Khorne? Wait, I thought the whole point was they were saying that obviously Legendary Lords are more hyped than Legendary Heroes. Another secret for LC. Yeah, Dan, I think they're not doing the Legendary Lord, Legendary Hero. Khorne is strong? Okay. It's a free LC, Dan. It'll be a Legendary Lord, Hero, and then a free LC for Khorne. Yeah, because it was Epidemis within last DLC that was the FLC, and Khorne's getting the FLC now. I'm just excited Greenskins getting changes to them. You want Slanesh to get a bit of love? Yeah. True. You want to see more Lords and Heroes? Yeah, Walled. I would agree. I'd agree. I mean, Lords have more of the playability, right? Like, for me personally, like, Gore... Wait, who is it? What's he called? The Hobgoblin guy. Mr. Backstabber. It's like, he's so good that you play him every single faction. You play him every single time you play Chaos Walls, and it gets repetitive, right? Whereas if you focus on a completely different Lord, you get replayability. You get other things that you can do in there. Good old Gordits. Maybe some Greenskins, Legendary Heroes. I would agree. I was really excited to see them potentially explore Forest Goblins, so we'll have to wait and see if they do much of that. As Forest Goblins is something that you can really, really dig into. They don't follow Gork and Mork, so they may have difficulties aligning that to the way that Warg's mechanics and things like that all work, so it makes sense there. How's the tournament going, by the way? Yeah, really good. These guys are doing a fantastic job. Really, really pleasure to watch both of these guys. Green Team expanded mods for the Forest Goblins. Nice side, I love that. Right, Hannodins is ready, raring to go with the Khorne army. I love that he did this. I love that he played Khorne after I was like, come on boys, it's Pillar of the Bone, let's get Khorne on. I just love that he actually did it, the Mad Lad. The Mad Lad actually did it. They're going for the Greenskins army. Oh, nice. Are you already excited for the 7 versus 1? Fox, I'm not sure if one of the players is available. So we may have to postpone it. I think one of the players is not available for tomorrow. Yeah, here we go. Like I said, a couple of approaches that the Tomb King player can go with is Ushabis, which they went more constructs. Wow, Scarbrand. Khalid is interesting as well. So Khalida's attack animations are a lot better now. She's not as garbage as she used to be. Problems Khalida used to have is she would struggle to hit stuff. But hopefully that's been addressed now. Yeah, did you guys see on YouTube the new Ogre Legendary Lord was the name of it was causing problems with YouTube? Like it was coming up with like basically you're swearing. God damn! 641 missile strength is insane. Okay. Double hell. So the thing that you got to remember with skull cannons is they're really, really inaccurate. They're really, 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 really inaccurate. So in the shoes of the Khorne player, I'd probably take off fire at will, move them up as close as I can, and then start putting pressure on the Ushabis, because the Tomb King player has legitimately nothing that can actually put pressure, for the most part, on them. Because, it's only 115 range, so they're super, super, super close range. We've got Nehekara Magic as well. So the reason why you go Nehekara Magic alongside this one is because you can go with cheap and cheerful spells to give the Restless Dead value. So you get a 1.4% heal per second on your composition across every single unit. So it's super good. You get a considerable amount of healing. The Hero Titan obviously has the Spirit Leech and whatnot, but one of the main values obviously is the Spirit Conduit. But in fairness, the Hero Titan, to me, doesn't make too much sense. And the only logic that I have is where is the value and where is the synergy with Spell Mastery, right? You have, I mean, yes, this spell may be good, but typically speaking, when it comes to Mastery, you expect to have a hard-hitting spell. But I believe Shadow Magic is banned for Tomb King, so that's the reason why we don't get the Shadow Magic here. It affects all the units with shrapnel misses. Oh, okay. Oh, you could have shadows. Interesting. Because for me, Nehekara Magic is good, but it's not incredible, especially with the composition. Very aggressive positioning from Raised here. Taking Scarbrand is just an absolute Giga Chad move, and I love to see it. I mean, we do have Gorfy, so if Scarbrand can find himself opportunities, because he will absolutely mulch through things like Ushabis, because his anti-bonus versus inventory doesn't matter at all. Yeah, literally what I called out. They're super inaccurate. Bring them closer together. Love to see that. And now let's try and isolate the likes of the great bows here. One gone wide, and another one's gone wide. Let's go. Should have gone to Spec Savers, Mr. Hell Cannons. Or Skull Cannons, excuse me. Should have gotten to Spec Savers indeed. Great shot there. Didn't quite kill. Another great shot coming through. This is one of the reasons why the Skull Cannons makes such a good impact on the actual composition here, but the Khorne army actually has very limited units here, so we've got to be really careful how they progress and how they position themselves. And it's a bit of a shame. Ooh, okay, interesting spell targeting with the Venom Staff there. Not the most amount of damage on the Khorne Marauders, but not too bad. So let's talk victory conditions. What is the victory condition for the Tomb King player right now? And it's honestly the Great Bows absolutely slapping some of the high priority units, but as long as Hannodins is paying attention, the damage you'll be doing is very limited, right? Scarbrand has the capacity to avoid the damage relatively easy, especially because of the way that his turning circles, like you can see here, are really, really, really rapid. If you were using things that are on chariots and things like that, then you would struggle to dodge. Another great hit coming through. So already half HP, the chosen of the gods. Scarbrand's looking for situations where you can isolate things like the Hero Titan and Khalida. Khalida will get absolutely smoked in that situation. The Bloodthirst is looking for a tussle with the Carrions. Want to be a little bit careful with your positioning of your inventory, because the Death from Above can actually smoke them, especially against the low armor. The Throwing Axes are going to be looking for skirmishing, especially into things like the Hero Titan. So we've got a Spirit Leech coming through. Khalida's trying to be isolated here. The great Ushabis, yeah, it's a bit risky going for this, especially with the double Spearmen and the units that are around. You want Scarbrand to have at least a little bit of support before you start committing to that. The Bloodhunters of Khorne coming around will absolutely mulch any of the inventory that's on this flank here, but you can see here, Karens are now looking for angles of potentially Death from above. We've got, obviously, the Throwing Axes are going to be looking for the likes of the Hero Titan. Let's try and look for the Khalida here. This is a perfect situation. The patience of Hannodins is absolutely fantastic. I have so much respect for Hannodins as a player now. Understanding patience. Just sending Scarbrand in there would have been such a detrimental situation. And I really respect the patience that that they've shown here to ensure that they can actually look for those isolations of targets. The carrion usage is actually really effective here. The skull cannons are going to need to start getting to melee to replenish the ammunition. Like right here, what I do is you shoot, and guess what? We have an 8.8 second reload time. Boom, go into combat for 4 seconds. Bash, get your ammunition, get out. So that's one of the best ways to min-max them. The Khorne Marauder Horsemen have anti-infantry, and these guys are anti-large though. But yeah, let's make sure to get these horsemen on the skirmish mode there. Scarbrand's now in a position where Khalid is unfortunately looking like she's a tasty morsel. Skulls for the Skulls Throwers indeed. She will join. I mean, even though Scarbrand really can't recover with Khorne because he betrayed him and attacked from behind. Absolutely plebeian. Zinch gave him mind games and things like that. But anyway, we'll move on. Lore aside. Got obviously the Marauders have come back into the fight. Karens are doing a fantastic job luring away these guys off the map. I think Scarbrand is a lot faster than Khalida, so she's like, send help! Reminds me of a double meme, that one. But we look over here, we got these Shabbies fighting against the Skull Cannons. Skull Cannons have a lot of nice breath attack. So Blows of Endless Fury is something you very rarely see, so with them stacking up as much as they did here, definitely punishing. I believe we've got 25% spell resistance as well, so the majority of the Spirit Leeches aren't going to be too amazing. This is one of the biggest El Clasicos you've ever seen in your life. The Karens are actually crumbling. Nothing's attacking them. Okay, interesting attempt for shots there. I mean, I would look to skirmish against Khalida here. Scarbrand protected the Great Bows, and then all of a sudden you've got a situation where Khalida's not really be able to do much here. Especially because the anti-large is so significant here, alongside of the melee defense reductions as well. Nice to see that one. Beautiful shot. Holy crap. Absolutely beautiful shot from the Skull Cannon there. Point blank shot into 3 units here. Hero Titan is still looking exceptionally healthy, so I'm a little bit afraid for that. Great usage of the Venom Staff there. It's not magical, so obviously it didn't bypass the 20% physical resistance, but it doesn't matter too much. The Ushabis have now started to crumble, so you don't really have to concern yourself with that too much. But one final shot did a ton of damage there. Now, the question is, boys, how do we start to look to deal with the Skull Cannons? How do we deal with Scarbrand here? Because as the battle has started to transpire throughout, we're in a scenario where we're going to be a little bit worried here. We've got Nehekara Magic, and we've got this bad boy here, which effectively is like the miasma for the Shadow Magic. But yeah, Khalida has to avoid dying at all costs, and you can see the Rampage across all of these units here. One of the reasons with the Rampage changes, Raging Body became a lot better, because before you had to wait for the threshold to actually Rampage. Let's get this Nehekara Mage in there. Let's make sure we've got more spells to keep spamming, because we need to keep these guys healthy wherever possible. Obviously, percentage healing is a massive factor when it comes to healing single entities like a Hero Titan. Khalida can get a lot of healing if she's got the uptime to do so. So let's make sure to play a little bit more of a skirmishy fight. Let's make sure that things like Khalida are protected here. But once again, finding yourselves in an isolated situation, you've got to be very careful, especially with what Khorne has available to them, which is some exceptionally powerful fighters. Scarbrand obviously has relatively low armor in the grand scheme of things. Does the Hero Titan have magical attacks? Yes, the Hero Titan has magical attacks, so you can actually kind of expect the Hero Titan to go relatively toe-to-toe against the likes of Scarbrand here, and that's kind of what the battle is basically going towards. We can see that the Bloodthirster was looking for skirmishing on the Carrions on this side, but it's a good job that they avoided that wherever possible. They can look to start cycle charging into things like the Skull Cannons, but you want to avoid giving any kind of ammunition where you can avoid it. But right now, we've got an isolation of the Skull Cannon. This is exactly what the Khalida needed to be looking for, especially with how limited her health pool was. Wow, the Mage is on foot. This is me on a Monday. I'm not... Let's be honest, lads. This is me on a Monday. Anywho, let's move on. So, yeah, the Skull Cannon's now being isolated. Great job there. Khalida actually did take one hit by the Skull Cannon, it looks like. And fantastic final shot from the Skull Cannon there. Turning around and just going... But Scarbrand, this is where actually Scarbrand struggles a little bit, I'm not going to lie. Scarbrand does struggle to start going through multiple elements of the inventory here. Hero Titan's praying that they can actually take down the Bloodthirster and do enough damage here to start getting the dude to crumble. I don't like the Carrions charging in there too much because, literally, like we said, Rampage coming through, a little bit of a terrifying prospect there. We don't really have any good targets for this spell anymore, so we're going to want to start spamming the Curse Blades wherever possible. Make sure not to overcast it, because this is the reason why we want to try and use our passive wherever possible. Another fantastic shot coming out onto Khalida here. If Khalida starts crumbling, what Khalida needs to do... Oh my days! Oh me oh my. 5 projectiles, the Venom Staff did a ton of damage to the Skull Cannon. You'd expect that to start crumbling. And we're feeling corny, but not quite corny today. Yeah, Khalida needs to start faking cycle charges to keep her leadership up. go for the little 1-2 buckaroo onto the likes of Skaven here. And, yeah. Good effort by Hannodins. Good effort. The Tomb Kings have remained supreme. So it's getting spicy. Much love to Hannodins for pulling that Khorne there. It was an interesting attempt. I mean, the race played well. Scorpion Summon. Wait, I didn't even realize. Yeah, the Scorpion Summon definitely coming in. So it's not a Ushabi Summon then. That Hero Titan really, really came in clutch. I underestimated it, honestly. That Hero Titan was the absolute savior there. I mean, in fairness, Khalida you can get it for relatively cheap. You can get Khalida for pretty cheap, so that's where she really printed off a lot of value. Let's just rename. Pretty sure this one... Yeah, this one's good. What value is a Titan? 3,000. Right, race is on 2, so we're actually getting a bit of a series here, which is we love to see. Hey, Skittle, right back at you, bud. Skybrand got Gorefeast in the mod. Yeah, Skybrand with Gorefeast was a bit of a terrifying prospect. So we're at 3-2 now, boys. So Pillar of the Bone is going to be a lot of skulls. I definitely think that Khorne was definitely pleased with the outcome of that fight. That's for sure. Get almost most usage out of the bound spells. Yeah, really good usage out of the bound spells there. So Shagrath Strand, a Nagorothy Norscan coast. Very interesting looking map there. God, there's so many maps in the pool. I know some of the ones that are added in, which are the workshop ones, which is really cool. I love the fact that CA gave the credit to all the developers of the maps. Really, really cool. So we can see that we've got, like we said, on the Norscan coast, Nagoroth. Honestly, it would be brutal. With how evil the Dark Elves are, they really are akin to how Norskins kind of operate. So, looks like we're getting Dark Elves coming through here. On Hannodin's side, let's have a look and wait and see what Race thinks as to is going to be a good counter into the Dark Elves for him. How much did you get burnt out or tired, Warhammer? Honestly, I very rarely get burnt out, Skittle. I think one of the benefits for me is the way I play the game. Okay, real quick, Chaos Dwarves on Race's side. The way I normally play is my chat is the most important thing. So I rarely care what happens in the game. It's just more so having awesome chats with you guys because I've said this time after time. I have become a better person as part of having the ability to speak to people all around the world. You know? I get to speak to you wonderful folks that are all around the world and it makes me a better person for it. Plus, if I ever get close to burning out, I just won't do the campaign anymore. You know, if I feel like if I'm thinking to myself, oh, I hate playing this campaign, I'm just gonna stop. You know, like with a Chaos Dwarf, this is Total War, no loss. I just got bored because it was too easy. Honestly, I don't find it enjoyable, so I'm not gonna play it anymore. This is why you can't finish any Kislev campaigns? I honestly... Kislev is... the problem I have with Kislev is the only Kislevite faction that's kind of interesting to me is Boris. Because it's like... Kislev is basically, I'm going to shoot at you, and I have all my inventory is really strong. I just don't enjoy Kislev. Boris is a chat. I like Boris. I think he's a cool legendary lord. But Katarina is a nerd. So is Castalton. Right, let's have a wait and see. So we've got a Dark Elf versus Chaos Dwarf. Ashanka doesn't exist, yeah. She's too... I think theatrically how she plays, the only reason she was fun to begin with was because of her unique range unit was OP. Also, a fun fact that Loopy has just said, within this tournament specifically, the Tomb King's win rate has gone to 50% in one game. So it's clearly 0 and 1. Let's see how these guys cook up. I mean, Chaos Dwarves versus Dark Elves is going to be interesting. Raced had the counter pick. So, one thing for you guys is in each of the lobbies, one of the players are pick first and ban first. And then the other players get the opportunity to counter pick. So, Hannodins played Khorne in his counter pick, so we'll have to wait and see. But Chaos Dwarves can go exceptionally cheap and cheerful here. You know, Labourers, Hobgoblins. I mean, typically speaking, from what you expect from a Chaos Dwarf player, is you go very cheap and cheerful. You can go very, very, very wide in line battle, and the Dark Elves would struggle against it. As long as they had certain options that dealt with them, like the Hobgoblin Archers for the Hydras and stuff like that. Not Hydras, excuse me. Well, you can expect Hydras sometimes. For the Medusas. Have you tried the Corn Dog yet? No, I haven't. I haven't tried Corn Dog yet. I've been too busy at work. Alright. Nice, so the battle's coming through. Let's have a look here. Yep, literally, that, as I mentioned, cheap and cheerful on the side of Iron Demon. Wow. Yeah, super cheap and cheerful on the side of Chaos Dwarves here, which is what I was expecting. Triple Cold Ones, the Aura Harpies with healing, the Warlocks, only 3 range units. Marathi is an interesting one because obviously she has healing elements, and obviously the very squishy Witch Elves. Oh, so this is a Slaughter, excuse me, it's the Whip variant, isn't it? So, I mean, really, really cool. Yeah, the Iron Demon is a really interesting choice in the likes of Rice. Hobgoblin Army, indeed, my friend. Hobgoblins do seem very cheap and cheerful, especially the bow variants. Like, they actually outrange the Dark Shards. So, if the Hobgoblin, if Hannodins is not paying attention, and Raced is micromanaging and macroing his armies really, really nicely, you know, he will outrange them. And that is in itself very terrifying. The Bull Centaurs Dual Axes, these guys are an absolutely force to be reckoned with. So we'll have to wait and see how that plays out. I mean, honestly, I'm liking what I'm seeing for the Chaos Dwarves here. I won't lie to you, boys. I will not lie to you. But Marathi is obviously a relatively solid fighter. And she has a significant portion of availability of healing with the Soul Stealer. Fun fact about the spell, to actually gain the benefits of the healing, you don't actually have to hit anything. Which is really weird, but it is the way it works. The likes of the Chorf player, we're going to need to see the value coming from these Bull Centaurs alongside the Iron Demon. I mean, the Iron Demon, honestly, is so unbelievably susceptible to any kind of Dark Shard firing, especially because of the range it has is the same. But let's see how they cycle charge through it. Basically, I would expect the Iron Demon to be utilized like a steam tank is typically utilized. But it says that the Sortlers are an interesting pick, especially because any of the front line will just melt completely. The only concern that I have is there's no Dread Spears. No Dread Spears that I can see, but the Cold Ones are going to facilitate the niche of killing the cavalry. I would suspect the Bull Centaurs, since they're not anti-large, will absolutely get smoked in melee against the Cold Ones. From a pound to pound of cost, I imagine a double Cold Ones would absolutely smoke them. But yeah, the Crow Thief's 0.2 healing is a lot. Especially if the likes of the Sorcerer Prophet gets caught up. 70 armor is not enough, really, for the most part. The Chalice of Blood and Darkness is interesting. Enable if enemy spell cast within range. And the rage is infinite. So just a cheeky 10% heal if someone casts. That's crazy. You have to target something with Soul Stealer. Oh, nice. That's a good change then. I mean, you can just run up. Intensity 115% because she has Spell Mastery, which is nice. We can see, let's see how this transpires here. Let's go and, let's get a top-down view, shall we, boys? So we can see that, obviously, the skirmishing is coming in clutch here. Looks like Soul Stealer has been thrown out already. Unless that was a Doom Bolt. Could be a Doom Bolt situation. It wouldn't surprise me at all. Yeah, really nice play coming out. Going for the skirmishing on the Hobgoblins. Just outside the cusp of being shot at by any of these units. This is one of the miserable things that you often will find as a Dark Elf player in this situation, you kind of have to walk into the frontline annoyance of this one. And wow, the Bleak Swords actually avoided the damage of the Iron Demons there. Harpies are on the right hand side flank, trying to kind of move in, get active in that combat situation. Got to be very careful with the Hobgoblins. If they get caught up, you lose so much Aegis within this battle because the Dark Elves don't really have many things to counter them. As you can see, just going for those skirmishy fights. But keep in mind, when you're attacking with units like this, they consolidate all their shots into 1 or 2 of the units. So you have to try and stand them still, like we're seeing here from Raced. Very nice adaptation from that one. Because if you just continuously keep flanking with them, you'll often find yourself in situations where you're not doing a considerable amount of damage, especially with the Hobgoblins, so you've got to be really careful. Nice, as we expected, cycle charging through there, but you've got to be expecting the Cold War Knights and the likes of the Dark Shards to react accordingly to that situation, so you can't really get too aggressive with them. The Dark Shards are now in a position where they're firing, and very limited things are actually stopping them here. We need the Bull Centaurs or the likes of the Source of Profit to try and react towards that with burning heads and whatnot, but the Cold Ones are staying behind in a fantastic manner to keep them checked up there. Now here is the terrifying prospect of the Iron Demon, and this is the reason why you need to make sure that these units are all actually cycling and playing towards each other. An Engineer potentially could have been brought to obviously provide healing to the Iron Demon, but this is one of the things that you have to be very, very careful of, and that's isolation of your unit. If you bring anything that is of a relatively high cost, you have to be prepared to actually play around that unit. If you're in a situation where you're, cycling around trying to skirmish, but you're opening up yourself to opportunities like this, you have to be very, very careful. And I think Hannodins is doing a great job of making sure that his units aren't placed in isolation. Although, as I said that, a one-shot of the Dark Shards with that Burning Head, and that has well and truly kept Raced in the battlefield here, especially with the damage race that we're experiencing here. We need the Harpies coming into something, but just honestly at this point, throw it into anything to get the healing, even the General, I would say. And then we can see, obviously, over on this point of the battlefield, the Bull Centaurs are going to be trying to flank around, potentially to try and get active in these fights. The Warlocks are obviously trying to mop up all the cheap and cheerful infantry here. Hobgoblin Archers are obviously, or the Hobgoblin Riders are still doing a great job of skirmishing and circling around here. Iron Demon's still in a bit of an unfortunate situation. Marathi absolutely clears here, so you've got to be very careful when it comes to stacking up. One of the things that would be needed is the Bull Centaurs in here as soon as possible, especially with the Cascading Fire Cloak coming out. Marathi and the likes of that will struggle massively, but the Iron Demon obviously is unbreakable. So, you have to make sure that that bad boy goes down to 1 health. Well, 0, should I say. Now the Murderous Mastery coming through is an incredibly terrifying prospect. Everything across the board gets buffed for the Dark Elves, so this is where the Chaos Dwarf player needs to be very, very careful about what happens here. A really nice Burning Head coming through here, basically putting pressure on everything around the area, especially with the Terror coming through on the Source of Properties, routing the likes of the Cold War Knights. We're getting to a point where you've got to be very careful when committing a lot of resources from either side at this point, due to the magic available to the both of them. Fantastic uses of, I believe, a Doom Bolt there coming out, which is the Wand of Caridon, whatever it's called, doing a considerable chunk of damage, and the Doom Warlocks are raring to go to kind of pressure that and punish where possible. Hobgoblin Cutthroats did a fantastic job getting onto the Dark Shards, especially because they are one of the main consolidating forces that will actually have a lot of value in the later stages of the game, as they still have a considerable chunk of ammunition, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, basically 80 to 90% of their ammunition still available to them. And we can see that Race is definitely starting to pull away in this one here. Hobgoblin Wolf Raiders are still putting a lot of pressure down. And it's getting to the point where we're going to get into a scary situation if we can't actually put enough pressure down onto the likes of the Chaos Dwarves' heavily strong infantry. We're going to have to be a bit scared here. Chaos Dwarves have been routed off on the battlefield on the Bull Centaurs on this flank over here. How many spells we've got left on this bad boys? We still got a Soul Blight, but that's about it. The Doomfire Warlock will need to start getting active and start looking for positions where they can do it. A Burning Head came out again. One of the best things about the Burning Head specifically is it provides a -8 leadership, which is the burn of 10 seconds, which, especially in combination with Terror and Fear, around 20 leadership-ish, you can get a threshold of Terror there, so it's really nice. Definitely need to start seeing the Chaos Dwarf put their units back into being active here, as we've got a fair few units that are still in the battlefield that can do something. Unfortunately, the Source of Profit got isolated. Marathi's looking for a really nice isolation here. Looks like a Soul Stealer has come through, which will be a considerable chunk of damage, which is going to be a little bit scary, especially with how much damage that's taking down. And Marath is obviously trickling up her health accordingly as well. And now a fantastic wraparound with all the units here. You can see that the likes of the cavalry and everything is obviously doing a fantastic job of ensuring that that general has no Aegis on the battlefield anymore. One of the things with the riders, obviously, sometimes they look like more of a threat than they actually are. You know, although, yes, they have the ability to skirmish, and yes, they are very difficult for the Dark Elves to deal with, but the damage overall that they dealt wasn't too terrifying, you know. One of the things that I often do myself as a newer multiplayer guy, or I often see as in the beginner tournaments that we do, people overcompensate for certain units. And in this case, Hannodins played fantastically and didn't overreact to what the fight was there. Playing towards the victory condition of ensuring that the wrapping around on any of the normal elite infantry that they had on the side of the Chaos Dwarves, dealing with the elite cavalry, especially with the Bull Centaurs, and ensuring that all of his units are moving together as one. Oftentimes, that is the biggest critical factor in these situations when you're fighting together here. You want to make sure that you're as one congealed unit instead of like looking for isolations, and that's what players in this level are very good at doing. They look for those isolations and they look for situations that they can take advantages. But that's GG's. GG. What a game. What an absolute banger of a game. Yeah, you saw the Bull Centaurs, you know, they creeped up a little bit of value. Wow, the Iron Demon got a lot more value than I expected, honestly. The Iron Demon got way more value than I expected there, lads. So did the Doomfire Warlocks. I suppose with the mod changes, that potentially might have given a little bit more amplifications to that. Fantastic job. Oh yeah, crazy amounts of value coming from the Sorcerer Prophet there. It's one of those things where when you look at compositions, it's like, what can they, what does the Iron Demon do that the rest of the composition can't facilitate as well? Be interesting to hear what Ray's thoughts are on that one, but yeah, GG's for all of them. GG's for all of them. Marathi coming in clutch with a lot of value there, especially. Yeah, the Doomfire Warlocks seem very strong. But no, fantastic job. GG's to all of these players. That was an absolute pleasure to commentate. So I appreciate these guys coming out. Alright. Oh, of course, yeah, the Warlocks kind of printed off a little bit of value there, didn't they? One sec, guys. Right, so GG's to that one. That was awesome to watch. Right, what we'll do. What we'll go ahead and do then, boys, is conclude there. So yeah, shout out to you guys watching on the tubers as well. Appreciate you guys watching. Much love to y'all. What we'll do is kick off with a different stream. I'm not sure what to play yet. Any recommendations, boys? Any recommendations on what to play? But yeah, GG's, boys. Thank you for watching. Bye-bye for now.